Welcome to Romance Tales by Mandy. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Now, sit back, relax, and let's begin.
The air inside the ballroom was expensive. Crystal chandeliers glittered above hundreds of people pretending to care about causes they barely understood. Champagne flowed, diamonds sparkled, and beneath it all, the stink of power and old money lingered like cheap cologne. This was my arena. I adjusted my cufflinks, those custom Delano heirlooms my father once wore when he still believed in loyalty. I didn't. Not anymore. Especially not after what Davis did to him. Richard Davis had spent decades building his empire on lies and betrayal. Tonight marked the beginning of the end, for him at least. And I was going to enjoy watching him burn. Until she walked in. I saw her before the crowd did. Time, for a moment, had the courtesy to slow down. Long, silvery blonde hair cascaded down her back like it didn't give a damn about gravity. Her dress was sleek, black, backless, hugging every curve like it was made just for her. She walked like she didn't owe the world anything, and maybe she didn't. I watched her lips part as she laughed at something someone said. I didn't hear the joke, didn't care. All I saw were those ocean blue eyes scanning the room like she was searching for trouble. And God help me, I wanted to be it. I leaned closer to the bar, pretending to sip from my glass of untouched scotch, and asked the bartender, the blonde, "Who is she?" He didn't even look up.
Luna Davis.
The name hit like a punch to the gut. Davis. Of course. The daughter of the man I've spent years planning to ruin. The perfect twist of the knife. I should have walked away. Should have turned on my heel and vanished before she even noticed me. But that's not what I do. I don't retreat. I don't back down. I conquer. And tonight, I was going to get closer to her. Not because it was part of the plan, but because for the first time in years, something had pulled me off balance. So I moved. I crossed the room like I owned it. People nodded, smiled, tried to get my attention. I didn't spare them a glance. My eyes were locked on Luna. She was near the balcony, alone now, her back to the crowd. The city lights lit her skin like moonlight. I stood behind her, close enough to smell her perfume, subtle, clean, addictive. "Enjoying the party?" I asked, voice low. She turned slowly. Her gaze met mine, steady and unafraid.
I was. Until now.
She replied, smirking. That mouth was going to be trouble. Oh, I tilted my head. And who exactly ruined it for you?
You. Because you look like the kind of man who ruins things. Beautifully.
She said, shameless and smiling. I laughed. Honest to God laughed. And she tilted her head, curious. I ruin only what deserves it, I murmured. Her smile didn't falter.
Then, I guess I'm safe.
She had no idea. No idea that I knew who she was. No idea that I had walked into her life with every intention of destroying everything she loved. But something shifted in me in that moment. Maybe it was her confidence. Maybe it was her fire. Or maybe it was the simple fact that, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel cold. She extended her hand.
Luna.
I took it. Marco. And I didn't let go.
Men always want something. A name. A connection. A signature on a deal. A quick fuck in a dark corner followed by a promise they'll never keep. I've seen it all. I've felt it all. The weight of expectations. The artificial charm. The way they pretend to listen while undressing me with their eyes. But Marco Delano? He didn't ask for anything. He just looked at me. Like he wasn't trying to own me, impress me, or charm his way past my defenses. He didn't flinch when I threw sarcasm at him like knives. He took it. Smiled even. That slow, wicked kind of smile that spreads like fire under your skin and makes your pulse forget how to behave. And now, he was everywhere. 3 days since the gala, and I've already run into him twice. Once at a coffee shop, and again at my favorite art gallery, where he didn't even pretend it was a coincidence.
I was hoping I'd see you again.
He said, casual, confident, standing too close in that perfectly tailored charcoal suit that should be illegal on a weekday. His voice has this delicious growl to it. Low and smooth, like velvet laced with sin. I tried to ignore it. I tried so hard. But tonight, I failed. I was leaving the gallery, heels clicking against marble, when I felt him behind me. Just his presence. Heavy, masculine, dangerous. I stopped, turned, and there he was, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on me like I was the only thing worth looking at in the world. "You following me?" I asked, teasing but sharp.
Not yet, but I might.
He replied. God, that voice. I should have walked away. I meant to. But then he stepped closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne. Earthy, warm, expensive, and suddenly, my spine forgot to hold me upright. "I don't do this," I murmured, more to myself than to him.
Do what?
He asked, eyes burning into mine. "This." I gestured vaguely between us. "Let men close." He nodded once, slowly, like he understood exactly what I meant. Then he leaned in, close enough that his breath grazed my jaw.
Then don't call me a man. Call me a bad habit.
My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I stepped back against the gallery's cool stone wall, heart racing. His hand landed beside my head, not touching me. But God, it felt like he was everywhere. "I should go," I said, my voice barely above a whisper.
You should.
He agreed. I didn't move. Neither did he. We stood like that for what felt like a decade, trapped in this tight magnetic field I couldn't break. His eyes flicked to my mouth. My lips parted on instinct. A hum built in my chest that I didn't recognize. Desire, sharp and unexpected, clawing its way to the surface. I wanted him, and that terrified me, because something about Marco wasn't just temptation. It was danger, wrapped in charm, dressed in a suit, and smiling like he already knew I'd fall. But I wasn't some naive girl with a trust fund and a daddy complex. No, I was Luna Davis. And if Marco Delano thought I'd be easy to catch, he had no idea the game had already begun.
I didn't leave things to chance. Ever. That's why I knew exactly where Luna Davis would be tonight. And that's why I was standing across the street from her favorite gallery, pretending it was just another evening in Manhattan. She didn't see me at first. Too busy disappearing into her own world, headphones in, keys in hand, lost in thought. But I noticed everything. The way her mouth moved, like she was talking to herself. The graceful line of her neck, when she tilted her head back to check the sky. She looked like a goddamn painting. And for a second, I forgot why I was here. She came down the gallery steps just as I stepped forward. Perfect timing, almost too perfect. She didn't see me at first, lost in whatever world lived behind those blue eyes. But when she did, the spark was instant. The kind that hits low in your gut and makes your chest tighten like it forgot how to breathe. She asked if I was following her. Teasing, sharp. I said, not yet. But I might. And just like that, we were circling something electric. She challenged me. God, I love that. Said she didn't let men get close. She should have walked away. I expected her to. But she didn't. She leaned in without meaning to. Her breath hitched, and I caught it, the smallest shift, that flicker in her eyes. Her back hit the stone wall behind her, breath caught in her throat. My hand landed beside her head, not touching her, but close enough for the tension to coil between us like a live wire. She whispered she should go. I agreed. Neither of us moved. And then, fuck it, I kissed her. I pressed my mouth to hers like I owned it. Not soft, not gentle. I kissed her like I'd been starving. Like I'd been thinking about that mouth since the second I saw it, because I had. Her lips were warm, parted just enough to let me in. She gasped, sharp and surprised, but she didn't pull away. She grabbed my jacket with both hands, fisting the lapels, like she couldn't decide whether to push me off or pull me closer. And when her mouth opened for me, God, it was game over. She kissed me back with this quiet desperation, like she hated how good it felt. Tongue, soft at first, then bolder. She tilted her chin just enough for the kiss to deepen, like she wanted to drown in it. And I let her. I let myself lose control. Her body fit perfectly against mine, and her scent light, sweet, a little citrus, wrapped around me like a goddamn drug. For a few seconds, nothing else existed. Not her last name. Not my plan. Not the empire I was trying to destroy. Only her. Only us. Only this heat I never fucking asked for. And then she broke the kiss. Slowly, like she had to peel herself off me. Like she hated herself for it. She didn't say anything. Just pulled her phone from her coat pocket. Cheeks flushed, eyes glassy. Tapped the screen.
Car's 2 minutes away.
She said, voice low. I stepped closer. Luna. She shook her head once. Not angry. Not cold. Just scared. The kind of scared that told me I'd gotten under her skin, and that she wasn't sure whether that made me dangerous or irresistible. Her car pulled up. She opened the door. Paused. Looked at me like she wanted to say something, but didn't trust herself to. Then she slipped inside, closed the door, and left me standing there on the sidewalk. My mouth still tingling, my heart pounding harder than it should have. I watched the car disappear down the street, and for the first time in years, I couldn't tell if I was still the hunter, or if I'd just become the prey.
I stared at my reflection longer than I should have. Not because I didn't know what to wear, though I'd changed outfits 3 times already, but because I was trying to recognize the woman in the mirror. She looked dangerous, like someone who wanted to be wanted. I wasn't that girl. Not usually, but there was nothing usual about Marco Delano. Ever since that kiss outside the gallery, I couldn't stop thinking about him. His mouth, his hands, not even touching me, and still managing to leave a mark. His voice, deep and unrushed, like he had all the time in the world to break me down. And God, I hated how alive he made me feel. It wasn't just attraction. It was need, raw and maddening. I craved his attention like a fix, hated the way my heart sped up when his name lit up my phone. I should have said no when he asked me to dinner. I should have told him to stay away. But instead, I said yes. And now I was standing here, trying to pretend I wasn't planning what underwear I'd wear if things went too far. The restaurant was tucked away in Soho, dim lighting, smooth jazz, candle flicker against white wine. Marco stood when I walked in, and God help me, he looked lethal in black. Buttoned down, sleeves rolled just enough to show the edge of a tattoo I hadn't seen before. His eyes landed on me like he'd been waiting for this exact moment his entire life. And I melted a little right there in heels I could barely stand in. Dinner was perfect. Conversation effortless. Flirtation constant. But underneath all that charm, something in him stayed hidden. A flicker of something darker behind those gray eyes. A tension that didn't quite match his smile. And I couldn't lie to myself. I felt it. He was holding something back. But I couldn't bring myself to care when his fingers brushed mine across the table. Slow, deliberate, like a promise and a threat wrapped in one.
Tell me what you're thinking.
He said, voice low. I looked at him, right into those stormy eyes. And I lied. I'm thinking I shouldn't be here. He leaned forward, just enough to let his knee press into mine beneath the table.
Then, why are you?
Because reason was no match for temptation. Because I wanted him, even if something inside me whispered that the fall would be hard and possibly shattering.
She stood at my door like a dare, hair slightly windblown from the car ride, eyes bright with something she didn't want to name, and that dress, dark, silky, clinging to every curve like it had been sewn there just to ruin me. I unlocked the door with steady hands and a pulse that was anything but.
This isn't a good idea,
Luna said the moment we crossed the threshold. But she didn't leave. She walked in like she belonged there, like she already knew this night was going to rewrite everything. I followed her inside, closed the door behind us, and locked it. Not for safety, for certainty, because there was no going back.
I'm not looking for anything complicated,
She murmured, turning toward me. I stepped closer, watching the way her chest rose with each breath. Neither am I lied. And she knew it, but she didn't stop me. My hand slid to the small of her back. She leaned in, her breath warm against my jaw, and then, silence. That thick, heavy pause right before everything breaks. The kiss wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was possession wrapped in desperation. Our mouths collided like we were starving for something we didn't have a name for. My fingers fisted the fabric of her dress, pulling her into me. She gasped, and that sound. Hell, that sound nearly undid me. I carried her to the bedroom without asking. She wrapped herself around me without hesitation. I thought I was in control. I always was. Every deal, every negotiation, every woman before her, calculated. Predictable. But Luna, she was chaos. The kind that stripped away your armor with one look. The kind that laughed in the face of control. She tugged at my shirt like she owned me. Kissed me like she knew exactly where it hurt. And when I laid her down, thinking I'd be the one to make her fall, I felt myself unraveling instead. Her hands were everywhere. Her mouth, a sin I never wanted forgiveness for. And in the low light of my bedroom, Luna Davis didn't just let go. She took over. Whispered things that drove me mad. Moved like she was dancing with fire. Made me feel, not just want, but feel, in ways I hadn't in years. Her skin was warm silk under my hands. Every inch of her body inviting, demanding, alive. I kissed down her throat slowly, not to tease. To memorize. Because something about Luna felt like a moment I'd never get back again. Like she was a storm passing through, and I needed to taste the rain before it vanished. She arched beneath me, nails digging into my shoulders, drawing me closer. Her breath hitched with every stroke of my tongue along her collarbone, every brush of my hands down her ribs. I whispered her name like it was a secret, like a confession, because it was. Luna. The name echoed inside me as her hips met mine in slow, maddening rhythm. Her body moved with a quiet, confident hunger that left me breathless, powerless. I'd had women before, more than I cared to count, but never like this. Never with someone who burned through my control like it was made of paper. We didn't rush. We devoured. Time lost all meaning. Her soft moans filled the room like music made only for me. And when I finally entered her, slow, deep, aching with restraint, she gasped my name, wrapped her legs around me, and pulled me deeper into the fire. There were no games in that bed. No masks. No lies. Just bodies colliding. Souls breaking open. She clung to me as if she could feel it too, this shift neither of us had planned for. I kissed her through every movement, every release, holding her like she was something fragile. Because for the first time in years, I wanted more than just the night. I wanted her. When we collapsed together, breathless and tangled in sweat and sheets, I felt her fingers trace lazy lines along my chest. Her head rested against me, heartbeat still wild beneath her skin. Neither of us spoke. Not because there was nothing to say, but because what we'd just shared wasn't casual. And we both knew it. She fell asleep with one hand curled over my heart. And I stared at the ceiling, wide awake. Because for the first time, Luna Davis wasn't part of the plan. She was the risk. And somehow, I'd already lost.
His sheets smelled like him. Warm spice. Faint cologne. Sin. I blinked up at the ceiling. The early morning light, creeping through the edges of the blackout curtains. My legs were tangled with his. His arm lay heavy across my waist, and his breath, slow and steady, ghosted over the back of my neck like a promise I didn't remember agreeing to. God, what had I done? I bit my lip and shut my eyes, trying to quiet the noise in my head. But all I could feel was his skin on mine, the weight of what happened between us, the heat of it still clinging to my thighs. I should have felt satisfied, sated. Instead, my heart was thudding against my ribs like it wanted to break out and run. It was so good, too good, like he knew exactly how to touch me, like his body was sculpted to ruin me. And maybe it had, because now, with the high fading, all I could think was, what the hell was I doing? I barely knew this man. Marco Delano. That name had barely settled in my brain, and here I was, naked in his bed, my heart playing a rhythm I hadn't heard in years. He was charming, no doubt, dangerous, almost certainly, and last night, he made me forget who I was. I let go in a way I never do. I let him see the soft, secret part of me that I never show anyone. And I didn't even know what he did for a living. A vibration on the nightstand snapped me back to reality. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers and saw the name flash, across the screen. Dad. Shit. I slid out from under Marco's arm like I was defusing a bomb. My feet hit the cold floor, and I winced, grabbing his shirt from the edge of the bed and slipping it on as I stepped out of the room. I didn't dare look back. Hey, I answered, my voice lower than usual.
Where were you last night?
My father asked. His tone wasn't angry, but I could hear the edge.
I called 3 times.
I was out, I said quickly. I just lost track of time. A long pause.
You all right, sweetheart?
I hesitated. My fingers clutched the collar of Marco's shirt tighter. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. We hung up a few moments later, and I stood there in Marco's pristine hallway, barefoot and wearing the scent of a man I barely knew. My father's voice still ringing in my ears. My body still humming from everything that happened between us. And for the first time since last night, guilt crept in. Not because I regretted it, but because I wanted to do it again. Marco had kissed every fear out of my skin, and I'd let him. Happily, recklessly, but there was something else too. Something I couldn't name. A shadow behind those silver eyes of his. And the worst part, that shadow made me want to step closer instead of run. I ordered a car. I didn't leave a note. When the front door shut behind me, it felt like I was walking away from something I shouldn't have started. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Not even close.
The first time I stepped into Davis & Co.'s headquarters, I didn't feel nerves. I felt the thrill of the hunt. Glass walls, cold steel accents, a perfectly curated environment, clinical, controlled, soulless. Just like the man who built it. Every detail screamed legacy, power, arrogance, and I was here to tear it all down. And yet, the second she walked into the boardroom, I forgot why I came. Luna, hair pinned up, a few loose strands brushing her neck like silk. She wore navy, sleek, professional, but her heels clicked with defiance. Her presence turned heads, even mine, especially mine. But this wasn't the Luna from my bed. This wasn't the flushed woman who whispered my name against my skin like a secret. No, this was her world. And God help me, I liked watching her in it. She stood at the head of the table, surrounded by old men in overpriced suits who didn't even try to hide their boredom. And then, with a calm fire in her voice, she laid out her proposal, an expansion of Davis & Co.'s social impact program. Real money, real action, things her father never gave a damn about.
They're not numbers on a spreadsheet. They're families, lives. And if this company wants to move forward, we can't keep pretending the city's problems aren't ours too.
She said, sharp and certain. I leaned back, pretending to study the presentation slides. What I was really doing was watching her. Luna Davis had no idea who I was, what I was planning, what I'd already set in motion. But damn it, she moved me, and that was a problem I hadn't anticipated. When the meeting ended, I hung back, let the others shuffle out with their stiff handshakes and cheap cologne. She didn't see me at first, not until she turned, gathering her papers, and our eyes met across the table. A flicker of something passed through her gaze, surprise, heat, something else. Guilt? No. I knew what that looked like. This was curiosity, a memory, a reminder.
Mr. Delano.
She said, cautious. Miss Davis, I returned smoothly. I almost didn't recognize you in corporate armor. She tilted her head, mouth twitching.
And here, I thought you prefer me out of it.
Bold. God, she was bold. I took a slow step forward, letting the door close behind me with a soft click. We were alone now. My heart pounded, not with lust this time, with something far more dangerous.
I didn't expect you here. You're consulting on the new acquisition?
She said, voice quieter now. That's the story, I murmured. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. But I could see it in her eyes, questions blooming, one by one. She wanted to trust me, wanted to believe the man who touched her like she was something rare and untouchable wasn't here to rip her family apart. And for the first time since this plan began, I wasn't sure what I wanted more. Revenge, or another night with her beneath me, telling me things her father never knew. She stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that I caught her scent, something floral and clean that made my chest tighten.
I hope you know what you're doing, Marco.
She said softly. I held her gaze, jaw tense. So do I. And as she walked out, heels echoing down the corridor, I realized something I didn't want to admit, not to myself, not to anyone. Luna Davis wasn't collateral. She was the complication I never saw coming. And now, I didn't know how the hell to stop.
He made it too easy to fall. That was the problem. Marco didn't chase, he lured. Subtle, deliberate. With a gaze that undressed me slowly, and a voice that could melt steel. He didn't push. He just stood there, waiting, like he already knew I'd come to him eventually. And I had. Again. Now, we were in his apartment, lights low, the smell of firewood and whiskey thick in the air. My skin still tingled from the way his fingers had moved over earlier. Unhurried. Reverent. Like I wasn't just a body to be touched, but something sacred to be worshipped. And yet, beneath all of it, I couldn't breathe right. I was sitting on his couch, curled up in one of his oversized sweaters, gray, soft, worn in. He stood in the kitchen, pouring a glass of red wine. Casual, comfortable, but my heart was anything but. When he walked over and handed me the glass, I didn't take it right away. I need to tell you something. His brows lifted just a little. He didn't sit, just stayed there, still waiting, watching me. I didn't come here looking for anything serious. I said quietly, I've spent a long time building walls, Marco. And when I'm with you, it's like they don't matter. That scares the hell out of me. He didn't speak, so I kept going. There was someone before. He made me believe he wanted me. But it was always about what I could give him, who my father was, what my name could offer. The moment I stopped being useful, he disappeared. The words sat there, heavy between us. I hated saying them out loud. It made me feel small, naive, weak. But Marco didn't flinch. He knelt in front of me, gently prying the glass from my hand and setting it aside. Then his hands came to my knees, his touch warm and grounding.
I'm not him.
I know, but knowing doesn't make the fear disappear.
Then I'll wait. I'll stay right here until the fear's gone. Until you believe I'm not just another man who wants something from you.
He murmured. My throat tightened. I hated how much I wanted to believe him. He leaned in, slow, like he was giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His lips brushed mine. Not hungry, gentle. A promise instead of a demand. And just like that, I melted. My hands slid into his hair, anchoring him to me as I kissed him deeper. I felt the low rumble in his chest as he pressed his body against mine, slowly easing me back onto the cushions. The heat between us ignited again, but this time it wasn't just lust. It was something more. His hands moved like they already knew every inch of me, every sigh, every shiver. He undressed me with reverence, and when he entered me, it wasn't wild or frantic, it was slow, intimate, like he was trying to prove something with every stroke. That I mattered, that he saw me, that he wasn't going anywhere. Later, when I lay tangled in his sheets, his fingers drawing circles on my bare back, I realized I'd let him in farther than I ever meant to. And that scared me even more than the past. Because if Marco Delano broke me, I wasn't sure I'd survive it.
I should have walked away. Hell, I planned to walk away. Twice. But Luna had this way of looking at me, like she saw something in me worth saving. And maybe that's what fucked me up the most. Because she didn't know what I was hiding, what I was planning. She didn't know that I wasn't here to fall in love. I was here to burn her father's empire to the ground. And yet, here I was, driving her up the coast, her legs tucked beneath her on the passenger seat, humming softly to a playlist she made, like this weekend was just a spontaneous escape and not me grasping at a way to breathe without hurting either of us. She didn't ask questions. She just smiled at me. That smile ruined me. The house I rented was tucked away on a cliff above the ocean, all glass, wood, and silence. The kind of place where time slowed down and lies didn't echo so loudly. I thought maybe if I could freeze this weekend, hold it in place, I wouldn't have to choose between revenge and her. That first night we cooked together. She made something with saffron and lemon, and her bare feet brushing the floor like she belonged in that kitchen. I couldn't stop watching her. She caught me staring.
You okay?
No, I said honestly. You're wearing my shirt and tasting like the best thing I've ever smelled, and I haven't touched you in hours. So no, I'm not okay. She dropped the spoon. I crossed the space between us before it hit the counter. Her mouth met mine in a kiss that felt like a fuse being lit. She tasted like wine and heat and something I couldn't name. I lifted her onto the counter, hands gripping her thighs as her fingers twisted into my hair, pulling me closer, like she needed more, all of me. God, I gave it. The kitchen, the hallway, against the glass wall with the ocean roaring behind us. She was breathless, wild, undone. I don't know how many times I made her come, but each one felt like a confession. Her body saying stay, even when my mind was still screaming run. Later, wrapped in tangled sheets and sweat, she curled into me like she didn't know I was the storm outside her window. She traced a scar on my chest with her fingertip, her voice soft.
This one. What's the story?
I lied. Because I had to. Because the truth, that it came from a job her father ordered, would have destroyed everything between us. But the guilt, that lingered. Long after she fell asleep in my arms, I stared at the ceiling, her breath steady against my skin, and wondered what kind of man keeps touching light while dragging shadows behind him. She made me feel clean, but I wasn't, and eventually she'd see the blood on my hands. The question was, when she did, would she run? Or would I beg her to stay?
His fingers moved like they knew every secret my body had been keeping. Slow, precise, addictive. The sheets were still tangled around my hips, but Marco's mouth was already trailing lazy kisses down my collarbone, his stubble brushing heat into my skin. I arched into him, aching, wanting, needing. God needing, like he was oxygen and I'd been holding my breath for years.
You always this responsive in the morning?
He murmured, voice thick with sleep and sex. Only when you're inside me. I whispered, because I didn't feel like lying. Not here. Not with him. He growled, low and hungry, and my breath caught as his hands slipped beneath the sheets again, spreading my thighs with a reverence that made me want to cry. It wasn't just the pleasure, it was the way he watched me. Like every moan was a prayer, and he was devout, worshipping. When I came, it wasn't quiet. It was shattering. I clung to him, nails digging into his back, and he whispered my name like it meant something more than 5 letters. After, I lay draped over his chest, his hand stroking lazy circles on my bare back. I wasn't just falling, I'd already fallen, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of that. The sun was spilling through the glass wall of the beach house, golden and warm. I kissed his shoulder, slipped out of bed, and padded barefoot through the house in his oversized t-shirt. My legs were still trembling, but my smile was soft. Content. That was the thing about love. You never realized how much you'd missed it until it came crashing back into your life. I found his laptop open on the kitchen island. I wasn't snooping. Not really. I just wanted to put on music while I made coffee. That's what I told myself, anyway. But then I saw the email. The subject line was short. Richard Davis, final phase. I froze. Dad's name. From a sender I recognized. Someone from a private equity firm that had once tried to buy us out. Ruthless. Predatory. What the hell? I clicked it before I could talk myself out of it. My hands shook as I read the words. Acquisition strategies. Undermining board votes. Leveraging public image damage. Terms I'd heard whispered in meetings. Red flags waving like fire. My heart pounded. This couldn't be real. Marco, my Marco, was working with people who wanted to dismantle my father's company. No, there had to be another explanation. Maybe it was old. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe...
Luna?
His voice. From behind me. I turned slowly. The screen still lit up in cold betrayal. He was shirtless, Hair a mess, eyes soft and sleepy. So goddamn beautiful it hurt. But I didn't feel desire anymore. I felt cold. Hollow. You lied to me. I whispered. His smile faded. And I knew before he even spoke. Whatever we had, it was real to me. But to him, it might have always been the perfect distraction.
She looked at me like I was a stranger. No worse. Like I was the villain in a story she didn't know she was part of until it was too late. Say something, I murmured. She stood in the middle of the kitchen, barefoot, my t-shirt hanging off her like it belonged there. But the fire in her eyes, that didn't belong. That was new, sharp, shattered.
I read the email.
Her voice didn't shake. That was the part that gutted me. She wasn't confused. She was done.
Richard Davis. Final phase.
She threw the words at me like they meant nothing. But they meant everything. I ran a hand through my hair. Luna, it's not what you think.
Don't you dare insult me by lying again.
She snapped. Fuck. I should have closed the laptop. I should have come clean. I should have never let it get this far. But I did. And now the consequences stood in front of me, in the woman I couldn't stop needing, whose heart I'd just ripped out. I didn't plan this, I said. I didn't plan you. She laughed, a sound so cold it made my chest burn.
Of course you didn't. I wasn't part of your strategy, was I? Just collateral damage. A convenient lay while you plotted to take down my family.
I took a step toward her. She backed away like I was fire. Luna, I said softly, it started that way, yes. I wanted revenge. Your father, what he did to my family. Her expression twisted.
What exactly do you think he did?
He destroyed my father's company, I said, the words catching in my throat. Stripped it for parts. Manipulated him into signing contracts he couldn't afford, then pulled funding at the worst moment. Left us ruined. We lost everything. My father, he never recovered. I paused, swallowing the ache. He drank himself into an early grave, Luna, while Richard Davis climbed higher off his bones. Her face paled, but not from shock. From pain. Conflict. Because maybe, just maybe, she knew it was partially true. Or maybe she didn't.
I didn't know. My father never told me anything.
She whispered. I figured he wouldn't.
But that doesn't justify this.
I know. God, I knew.
But you used me. You lied to my face. Touched me like you cared. Fucked me like I meant something.
You do mean something. I snapped, the mask cracking with the force of it. Don't you get it? That's the problem. I didn't want to fall for you, Luna. But I did. Silence. Her eyes were glassy now. Not broken. Furious.
You don't get to play the victim here.
I'm not.
Then stop acting like this was noble. Like you were the one who got hurt.
She walked past me, every step deliberate, her chin high even as her fingers trembled while grabbing her overnight bag. You don't have to do this, I said low. Desperate. Let me explain. Really explain. She paused by the door, turned, and the pain in her face was so real, so raw, it carved itself into me.
I trusted you, Marco.
3 words. 1 sentence. A slow, clean kill. She opened the door. The wind from the ocean rushed in like a scream.
You're not the man I thought you were. And the worst part is, I wish you were.
Then she was gone, and I stood there, in a house that still smelled like her skin, with the sound of her voice echoing in the spaces I didn't know were empty until she filled them.
I didn't go to the office for 3 days. The 4th I tried. I put on makeup, curl my hair, zip myself into a navy dress that used to make me feel powerful. But the second I stepped into the elevator, the scent of someone's cologne made my knees buckle. It wasn't even his. But my body didn't care. My body remembered. I pressed the button for the lobby and left without saying a word. Now I'm here, on my couch, still in that same dress, barefoot, cold coffee untouched on the table, my phone lighting up with messages I can't bring myself to read. Dad's called twice, a 3rd time just now. I ignore it, not because I'm punishing him, because I can't face the man who might have driven another family to ruin. Because I don't trust myself not to scream or worse. To believe him. I close my eyes, but I see him. Marco. His mouth on my skin. His voice in my ear. That look he gave me when he was inside me. Like, he wasn't just making love. He was breaking. I can't erase it. I can't erase him. And I hate myself for it. Because what kind of woman still wants the man who lied to her? Who used her? But there's something twisted deep in my chest that whispers he wasn't just playing a game. That when he looked at me with that raw, shattered kind of need, it was real. Wasn't it? I replayed all. The trip. The things he didn't say. The things he did. How he held me like he needed to remember how I felt. How his body trembled against mine. Like he was scared. Men like him don't get scared. Unless something matters. Did I matter? I clutched the blanket tighter around my body, even though I'm burning from the inside out. Grief and lust mixing like poison in my veins. My heart a battlefield of betrayal and stupid, impossible hope. I want to call him. God, help me. I want to call him. But I don't. I won't. Because even if part of him cared, the other part was planning my family's downfall while he kissed me. And there's no rewriting that truth. Still, if he showed up at my door right now, if he looked at me the way he did when he thought I was asleep, his fingers brushing hair from my face, like I was the most precious thing he'd ever touched, I don't know if I'd push him away, and that terrifies me more than anything.
There's a point where the hunger for revenge stops tasting like power and starts tasting like ash. It happened the moment Luna walked out, eyes full of betrayal, voice shaking with rage. And all I could think was, God, what have I done? I thought I had time to fix it, to tell her everything, to pull back before the damage became permanent. But the wheels I'd spent years setting in motion didn't wait for my second thoughts. They turned, mercilessly, efficiently, and now they're tearing down everything in their path, including her. The first alert came in this morning, a hostile acquisition flag, then an automatic trigger clause in a contract I signed 6 months ago. Then the start of a stock crash. The Davis name is bleeding, and I caused the wound. I'm in my office, staring at 6 monitors flashing red with damage reports. My team is buzzing, celebrating even. They think I've pulled off the ultimate move. A business coup so clean and brutal, it'll be taught in Ivy League classrooms for the next decade. They don't realize I'm trying to undo it all in real time. Shut it down. I snap at Leo, my second in command. He frowns.
Shut what down? You won, Marco. This is exactly what we planned.
No, I growl. It's not. Because I didn't plan on her. Didn't plan on feeling. Didn't plan on realizing that somewhere in the middle of the war, I started protecting the daughter of the man I swore to ruin. Leo stares at me like I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. I tell him to call the lawyers. Pause the buyouts. Reverse the merger move if possible. Eat the loss. I don't care.
Jesus. Do you know how much this is going to cost us?
I lean against the edge of my desk. Stare out the window at a city that used to feel like mine. Everything, I say. It's already cost me more than that. Because I didn't just break the company. I broke her. And the irony that I've become exactly what I hated, exactly what I swore I'd destroy, eats at me with every passing second. My father died bankrupt and humiliated. I blamed her father for it all. For the deals that crushed us. For the silence afterward. But what if the story wasn't that simple? What if the truth I've been chasing all these years was wrong? I sink into my chair, rub my hands over my face. My phone is silent. So is my soul. I had her. In my arms. In my bed. In my heart. And I destroyed it. All of it. The man I became for revenge has no place in the world she deserves. And now that world is burning because of me.
You can't see him again, Luna.
My father's voice sliced through the room like cold steel. I stood frozen in the middle of his office. An expanse of polished marble and curated perfection that had always made me feel like a child pretending to be an adult. I wasn't a child anymore, but standing in front of him, hearing those words, I felt 12 again. You knew, I said quietly. Didn't you? His jaw clenched, just enough for me to catch it.
That he was after our company? Yes.
That's not what I'm asking. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. You knew who he was, who his family was, and you didn't tell me. Silence. I hated that silence. The kind that meant he was deciding how much of the truth I could handle. The kind that came before he wrapped it all in carefully measured words to make me believe he was the victim.
He's dangerous. Vindictive. Manipulative. He used you, Luna.
He finally said. My heart twisted, because maybe that was true. Maybe some part of it was. But another part still remembered how Marco looked at me when I left. The way his voice dropped when he said my name. The way his hands held me like I was something fragile and wild all at once. I need to know the truth, I whispered. Not just your version, the real one, about you and his family, about what happened. My father's face darkened.
You're not going to get in the middle of this.
I already am. And I was. This wasn't just about Marco anymore. It was about the gaping holes in the story I'd been told my entire life. Holes I hadn't seen because I hadn't wanted to. Because it was easier to believe my father was a hero than to admit he might have had blood on his hands, too. He thinks you ruined his father, I said, that you stole everything from him. My father exhaled harshly, pacing.
I made a business decision. His father didn't have the guts to handle the consequences.
He died broke.
He died bitter. There's a difference.
I swallowed hard. So it's true.
I didn't ruin him. I protected my company, my legacy, and I would do it again.
And there it was. The first crack in the image. I saw it. The ruthless edge that had always been there, masked by tailored suits and charity galas. The man who taught me to fight, to rise, to lead, but never to question. He's not like you said, I murmured.
You don't know him. Luna.
I know how he made me feel. I lifted my chin, and I know when someone's lying to me. That includes you. For the first time, my father looked rattled, just a flicker, but I saw it. I'm not choosing sides yet, I told him, but I will find out what really happened. And when I do, I'm not going to protect anyone who lied to me. I turned to leave, heart pounding, hand shaking.
You're making a mistake.
He called after me. I didn't answer, because maybe I was. But I'd rather make a mistake with my eyes open than live the rest of my life blind to the truth.
It started with a number that didn't make sense. I was going over old records, half out of obsession, half out of guilt, when I noticed it. A transfer. Small. Hidden. But it opened a door I hadn't walked through in over a decade. And once I stepped in, there was no going back. The deeper I dug, the clearer it became. The man I'd built my hate around wasn't the one who destroyed my family. It wasn't Richard Davis. It was someone else. Someone we trusted. Harold Roth. The man who used to call himself my father's best friend. The man who toasted at our holiday dinners. The man who vanished right before everything burned to the ground. He doctored reports, redirected contracts, tanked partnerships on purpose, and pinned the fallout on my father. And Richard Davis, he wasn't the thief. He'd been just another pawn in Roth's web. He tried to warn my father. They argued, yes, but he hadn't betrayed him. I had spent years hating the wrong man. And because of that, I had hurt her. Luna. God, just the thought of her. Those wide, trusting eyes looking up at me. That soft laugh in the dark. The way her body melted into mine like she was made to fit there. She gave me pieces of herself no one else had. And I repaid her with a lie. I'd walked away from vengeance. Too late. The damage had already been set in motion. The company her father built was bleeding. And she was probably still trying to pick up the shards of what I shattered. I couldn't lose her. Not now. Not after finally seeing what was real. I jumped in my car, adrenaline pumping like fire in my veins, the truth weighing heavy on my chest. I had to tell her. Everything. Not just because it was the right thing to do, but because if I didn't, I'd lose the only person who ever made me want to stop fighting. The sky was turning to ash as I sped through the city. A storm on the horizon. Fitting. There was a war waiting to erupt, and this time, I wasn't going into it with hatred in my heart. I was going into it for her. I pulled up outside her building, just as the first drops hit the windshield. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I had no idea what I was going to say. No strategy. No shield. Only truth. I stepped out into the rain, let it soak through my shirt, run down my back, drip into the cracks I'd spent years pretending didn't exist. I deserved to be punched, screamed at, thrown out, but I'd take all of it if she'd just let me explain, because the man who destroyed my family had fooled me into becoming something I never wanted to be. And Luna, she was the only person who could see the man I still might be.
The rain hadn't stopped all day. It tapped against the windows like 1,000 whispers I didn't want to hear, reminding me of things I couldn't forget, couldn't forgive, and maybe, deep down, didn't want to. I stood barefoot in my apartment, arms wrapped around myself, the soft hum of jazz playing low from my speakers, some kind of soundtrack to heartbreak. My heart felt like it was stitched together with trembling hands. Every time I thought I was finally okay without him, some part of me unraveled, and that night, it ripped, because when I opened the door, he was there. Marco, drenched in rain, shirt clinging to every sculpted line of his body, his hair slicked back and dripping, eyes shadowed but burning. He looked like a man who had run through a hurricane just to find me. Maybe he had. I froze. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there, chest heaving, lips parted like he couldn't catch his breath. And not from the sprint. From me. From whatever storm lived behind my eyes.
Luna, I need to tell you everything.
He finally said, voice raw. I should have slammed the door. Should have told him to go to hell. To take his beautiful lies with him. But I didn't. I stepped back. He entered like a man on the edge of something irreversible.
I was wrong. About your father. About everything.
And then he told me every goddamn detail. About Roth. About the forged files. The betrayal. The years he spent sharpening his hate like a blade. Only to find out he'd been stabbing shadows. He looked at me like that truth was tearing him apart from the inside out.
I destroyed something that was never meant to be broken. You. Us.
He whispered. I was shaking. Not from the cold. From the ache. I trusted you, I said, my voice cracking like glass. I loved you. He stepped closer. I didn't move.
And I still love you. More than revenge. More than pride. More than anything I ever thought I was supposed to be.
He said, breath catching. The tension between us wasn't gentle. It was molten. I could feel it. His pulse. The heat rising from his skin. The scent of rain and regret radiating off him like a confession.
Luna.
He said again. But this time it wasn't a plea. It was a promise. I reached for him. I shouldn't have, but I did. Our mouths met like thunder cracking the sky open. Violent, desperate, full of everything we've been trying to bury. His hands tangled in my hair, mine on his soaked chest, nails dragging over muscle and heat. He backed me into the wall, lips tracing my jaw, my neck, his breath aflame on my skin.
I tried to stay away. God, I tried.
He rasped. I pulled him closer. Don't. Outside, the storm raged. But inside, the storm had already won. And I wasn't sure anymore if I wanted to be safe from it.
I didn't know what forgiveness would feel like. I thought maybe it would come with a quiet kind of peace, or a long, dramatic conversation in the dark. But it didn't. It came with her lips on mine, with Luna pulling me in like she was done fighting what we both knew had never really ended. Her body against mine, warm and alive and home. That night wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was a collision. A raw, hungry, desperate attempt to make up for every moment we'd lost to pride and pain. Her hands tore at my shirt before I even reached the bedroom, her mouth never leaving mine, her fingers threading into my hair like she needed to anchor herself, because we were both spinning. When I laid her down, I didn't just want her. I needed her. The way she looked at me, chest rising and falling beneath the thin lace she hadn't bothered to button up again. That look destroyed me, because there was no fear anymore. No doubt. Just Luna, open and honest and mine.
I don't want anything between us. No lies. No walls. Just you.
She whispered, her voice trembling, not from nerves, but from knowing. God, the sound of her voice saying that. I kissed her like I'd never kissed her before. Not out of want. Out of reverence. I touched her like I was learning a new language, like her skin was sacred ground, and I had all the time in the world to worship it. And she let me. She arched into me, soft gasps filling the air between us, our rhythm syncing like music we'd been writing with our hearts long before our bodies caught up. Her skin glowed in the dim light, golden from the lamp I hadn't bothered to turn off, and for a moment I just stared at her. I let myself take in every curve, every breath, every flicker of vulnerability in her expression. Luna wasn't just beautiful. She was real. Flesh and fire and emotion, lying beside me like a question I'd spent years trying to answer. And I couldn't stop touching her. My hand slid up her thigh slowly, deliberately, like I had every right to take my time now, because she'd given herself to me without hesitation. She gasped softly when my fingers grazed the sensitive skin at her hip. Then she turned, straddling me in one fluid motion that made my breath catch. I let my hands rest on her waist, gripping tighter as she began to move, gentle, slow, like she was savoring it. Savoring me. Her head tilted back, eyes fluttering shut as her hips rolled, every motion pulling a low growl from my throat. She was the most exquisite kind of torture. Luna. I breathed, voice thick. You drive me insane. She opened her eyes then, blue, wild, full of mischief, and leaned in to kiss me. Not rushed. Not hard. Just deep. Intimate. Her lips moved with mine in that rhythm lovers find when the world has fallen away, and all that's left is the heat between bodies that crave nothing but each other. And that's what it was. Craving. Reverence. Worship. She leaned down, brushing her nose along my jaw, whispering,
I want to remember this. Every second.
You will, I promised, gripping her tighter, rolling her beneath me. Because I'm not letting you forget. This time, it wasn't desperate. It was slower. Deeper. We moved like we'd been made to fit this way. Her soft gasps echoing against my skin, her fingers tangled in my hair, my mouth trailing along her collarbone, down the curve of her breast, memorizing every taste, every shiver, every whispered plea for more. We stayed like that for hours, making love, resting, touching, kissing, making love again. And somewhere between the second and third time, when she was lying half asleep against my chest, her fingertips tracing lazy lines across my ribs, she whispered something I'll never forget.
I was never afraid of you, Marco. I was afraid of losing myself. But with you, I found something better.
I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. I just pulled her closer and buried my face in her hair, whispering her name like a prayer. That night, we didn't just reconnect. We rewrote everything. With bodies, with trust, with love. And when morning came, she was still there, wrapped in my arms, where she belonged. I love you, I whispered. My voice was hoarse but steady. No games, no plans, just this, just you. She turned to look at me, blue eyes soft, full of something I didn't deserve but would spend the rest of my life trying to earn.
I know. I believe you.
She murmured, and in that moment, for the first time in years, I felt like a man again. Not the one haunted by revenge, but the one reborn by love.
There's a quiet kind of magic to waking up next to the man you once thought would ruin you. Marco's arm is draped over my waist, heavy and protective, and I can feel the slow rhythm of his breath against my neck. It's early, sunlight barely spilling through the sheer curtains, but I don't move. I just stay there, still and full. Because even after all this time, some part of me is still stunned that this is real, that he's mine, and I'm his. Months have passed since that stormy night. He showed up at my door, drenched and broken open, and since then everything has changed. Not overnight, Love like ours doesn't ask for shortcuts. We talked, we fought, we cried, and then we rebuilt. Brick by brick, truth by truth. The business war that Marco unintentionally unleashed was harder to clean up. His maneuver had already pulled major contracts from my father's company, sending shockwaves through the board and triggering audits, layoffs, press disasters. For a while, it looked like Davis and company wouldn't survive. But Marco did something no one saw coming, especially not my father. He offered to help fix it. Not with a check, not with a press release, but by exposing the real villain, the man who'd once been his father's partner, the one who played both sides, faked evidence, manipulated numbers, and let our families tear each other apart, while he walked away with millions. That man is now under investigation, and while my father still doesn't like Marco, he respects him. It's an uneasy truce, but it's real, and I think that's all we ever needed. I roll over slowly and study the face beside me, his dark lashes against his cheek, that strong jaw that softens only when he sleeps. There's a calm in him now, less steel, more warmth. He's still Marco Delano. He still runs empires and wears tailored suits and speaks with that voice that makes people stop breathing. But with me, he's different. I saw it yesterday at the vineyard we bought together. He was barefoot, laughing, helping the staff stack crates of late harvest grapes like he had nowhere else to be. And when our eyes met across the rows of vines, something deep inside me fluttered. Because he didn't look at me like a man who'd conquered anything. He looked at me like a man who was finally home. And last night, when he pressed me against the kitchen counter with wine-stained lips and whispered,
I still can't believe you're real.
Before taking me right there, slow and rough and honest, I felt it again. Love, not a fantasy, not a mask, just raw, steady, undeniable love. He stirs now, eyes blinking open, silver gray and sleepy. His fingers tighten around me instinctively.
Hey,
He rasps, voice low and rough from sleep. I smile. Hey,
you were staring.
maybe. He grins. God, that grin. It's rare and stupidly gorgeous, and makes me fall in love with him all over again.
What were you thinking about?
I lean in and kiss him, soft and unhurried. Then I whisper, right against his lips, love. And how, after everything, I finally know what it looks like when it says my name. He kisses me back, slower this time, hands slipping beneath the sheets, already teasing. And just like that, I know this is just the beginning of us, of everything.
The vines are heavy with promise. Late spring in Napa has a scent. Wildflowers, oak, sun-warmed grapes just beginning to bloom. I know this land better now, not just as a businessman, but as a man who finally understands what it means to build something with his heart. And I built this for her, because of her, with her. Luna's laugh rings out from behind the tasting barn, where she's barefoot in the grass, playfully trying to herd our very uninterested vineyard cat into the shade. Her hair's down, catching the wind, and she's in one of those soft white dresses she wears like second skin. She looks like the beginning of a poem. I can't look away. This time last year, I almost lost her, because of a lie I believed and a truth I ran from. But now we've rewritten the ending. After the fallout, I offered her father not a deal, but a chance. I brought everything to the table, my holding company, his legacy brand, the evidence against the man who'd betrayed both our families. Luna was the bridge between our broken histories. And when the dust settled, Davis and Delano was born. A merged empire, leaner, cleaner, and finally honest. The boardroom where her father once glared at me like I was the enemy, it's now where we toast new contracts together. He's even taken to calling me son, after 2 glasses of red. He pretends he doesn't remember, but I do. I remember everything, especially this, the way Luna looked at me the day the merger went through, like she didn't see a CEO, or a Delano, just me, and now she's about to see something else. I reach into my jacket pocket, feeling the velvet box. Small, simple, heavy with meaning. It took me months to design the ring. A diamond, yes, but flanked by 2 rare sapphires the color of her eyes when she's about to kiss me senseless. The band engraved with words she once whispered when she thought I was asleep. You're my forever, whether you know it or not. I know it now. I walk toward her, heartbeat steady, hand closed tight around the box. She sees me coming and grins, brushing her hair from her face, her cheeks flushed from the sun and laughter.
Marco, if you're trying to seduce me in broad daylight, you're doing a terrible job at pretending.
She teases, stepping closer. I stop in front of her, eyes locked to hers. I'm not pretending. She tilts her head.
No.
No. My voice drops, thick with everything I've been holding back. Luna Davis, every part of my life before you was survival. But with you, I'm alive. I'm whole. I'm home. Her breath catches. Her eyes shimmer. I drop to one knee in the middle of our vineyard, where we planted our second chance with our own hands. I open the box. Marry me. The world stills. The breeze stills. But her smile, it blooms like fire through fog. She kneels too, tears falling, laughter bubbling from her lips, and kisses me like a yes. 1,000 yes. The kind that doesn't need words. But she says it anyway.
Yes. Yes, Marco. Always yes.
She whispers against my mouth. And just like that, the past is behind us. The future is ours.